Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Now, I welcome all my students to the continuation of the lectures regarding the GIT. As up till now, we have done the movements related to gut, and now we are going to deal with all the different type of secretions which are there in helping this process of digestion of food. Now, today we are going to learn and start with that of the secretory functions of alimentary tract, including the saliva as well as all the secretions down from esophagus. So, um, let's talk about them one by one. Now, before starting or getting over to a particular one, we should be knowing about the general principles regarding the secretion of alimentary tract secretion. We should be knowing what are the general principles of the alimentary tract which are actually responsible for the secretions of an alimentary tract. Let's talk about them one by one. First is the anatomical types of glands. On surface of the epithelium of GIT, there is presence of billions of these single cell mucus glands. And what are they actually known as? The mucus cells and the goblet cells, because they look like the goblet actually. Now the function is actually that if there is any the irritation, the local irritation of the epithelium, the mucus, the lubricant, is going to protect the surface from excoriation and digestion. So this is actually the general principle, that whenever there is a local irritation, there is more and more release of the mucus, which is actually a lubricant. Now GIT, that is actually being lined by the pits that represent the invaginations of the epithelium into that of the submucosa as well. And they have given the name of the crypts of Lieber-Cohen, and they are deep and containing specialized secretory cells. Whereas in stomach and upper duodenum, there is presence of large number of deep tubular glands. C. The surface epithelium having large number of mucus secreting goblet cells. Then some of the cells, they're going deep down that of the submucosa, and some of them they are much deeper. Now complex glands, the salivary glands, pancreas and liver, they provide the secretions for digestion or emulsification. What is emulsification? That is actually that food is finely ground and it is fully in contact with that of the secretions. It is liquefied form, and the liver has a highly specialized structure. The salivary glands and the pancreas, they are compound acinous glands, and these glands, they lie outside the walls of alimentary tract. They contain millions of acini which are lined with that of the secreting glandular cells, and these acini feed into a system of ducts that finally empty into the alimentary tract itself. The basic mechanisms of stimulation of the alimentary tract glands. Contact of food with that of the epithelium stimulates the secretion function of enteric nervous stimuli. The mechanical presence of food in a particular segment of gut usually causes the glands of that region and adjacent region to secrete moderate to large quantity of release of different secretions, juices. In addition, the local epithelium stimulation also activates the enteric nervous system of the gut, like if there is any sort of stimulation that can be tactile stimulation, chemical irritation, distension of the gut wall, and the resulting nervous reflexes stimulate both the mucus cells on the gut epithelial surface and the deep glands in the gut wall to increase their secretion. Now let's talk about the autonomic stimulation of secretion. Stimulation of the parasympathetic nerves to alimentary tract increases the rates of alimentary glandular secretion. Glands in the upper portion of the tract is having the innervation from that of the glossopharyngeal and vagus parasympathetic nerves, such as the salivary glands, esophageal glands, gastric glands, Brunner's glands in duodenum, and some glands in distal portion of the large gut. Secretion in the remainder of the small intestine and in the first two-thirds of the large intestine occurs mainly in response to local neural and hormonal stimuli in each segment of the gut. Sympathetic stimulation has a dual effect on alimentary tract glandular secretion. Now it can be asked that what is the role of autonomic nervous system on secretion of gut. Now, stimulation of sympathetic nerves going to the gastrointestinal tract causes a slight to moderate increase in secretion of local glands. But sympathetic stimulation also results in constriction of the blood vessels that supply the glands. Sympathetic stimulation can have a dual effect. Sympathetic stimulation slightly increases secretion if parasympathetic or hormonal stimulation is already causing copious secretion by glands. Superimposed sympathetic stimulation usually reduces the secretion, sometimes significantly so, mainly because of the vasoconstrictive reduction of the blood supply. Regulation of the glandular secretion by hormones. In the stomach and intestine, several different gastrointestinal hormones, they help to regulate the volume and character of the secretions. These hormones are liberated in response to food in the lumen of the gut. The hormones are then absorbed into the blood and carried to the glands where they stimulate secretion. And this type of stimulation increase the output of gastric juice and pancreatic juice when food enters the stomach or duodenum. Basic mechanism of secretion by glandular cells. The nutrient material needed for formation of the secretion must first diffuse or be actively transported by the blood into the capillaries into the base of glandular cell. Many mitochondria located inside the glandular cell near its base use oxidative energy to form ATP. So we should be knowing about the basic mechanism of secretion by the glandular cells, that there can be active transportation or there can be diffusion first of that particular nutrient from the circulation into that particular glandular cell. See, the basement membrane close to the capillary, and from there is actually active transportation, or you can say that there is diffusion of particular nutrient required for secretion. How that thing that enters from the basement membrane taken up and then in the form of different type of the secretory vesicles, they are being produced, and then they are being released in the form of secretion. Energy from the ATP along with appropriate substrates provided by the nutrients is then used to synthesize the organic secretory substances. This synthesis occurs almost entirely in the endoplasmic reticulum and Golgi complex of the glandular cell. Ribosomes adherent to the reticulum, they are specifically responsible for formation of the proteins that are secreted. The secretory materials are transported through the tubules of endoplasmic reticulum, passing in about 20 minutes all the way to the vesicles of the Golgi complex. In the Golgi complex, the materials they are modified, added to concentrated and discharged into the cytoplasm in the form of secretory vesicles, which are stored in the apical ends of the secretory cells. These vesicles remain stored until nervous or hormonal control signals cause the cells to extrude the vesicular contents through the cell surface. This probably occurs in the following way. First, the control signal first increases the cell membrane permeability to calcium ions, and calcium enters the cell. The calcium in turn causes many of the vesicles to fuse with that of the apical cell membrane. Then the apical cell membrane breaks open and thus emptying the vesicles to exterior by the process known as exocytosis. Then we have water and electrolyte secretion. A second necessity for glandular secretion is secretion of sufficient water and electrolytes to go along with that of the organic substances. Now, secretion by salivary glands provides an example of how nervous stimulation causes water and salts to pass through the glandular cells in great profusion. Hormones acting on the cell membrane of some glandular cells, they are believed also to cause secretory effects similar to those caused by nervous stimulation. Lubricating and protective properties of mucus and importance of mucus in the gut. This is very important. The importance of mucus in gut. That's why it has been given the name of the gut wall as it. Now, mucus is a thick secretion which is composed mainly of water, electrolytes, mixture of several glycoproteins, which themselves they are composed of large polysaccharides which are bound with smaller quantities of protein. Mucus is slightly different in different portions of the gut, but everywhere it has several important characteristics that make it both an excellent lubricant and a protectant for the gut for the wall of the gut. Now, what are the properties? Now, first is that mucus has the adherent qualities that make it to adhere tightly to the food or other particles and to spread as a thin film over the surfaces. Number two, it coats the wall of the gut and prevents the actual contact of most of the food particles with that of mucosa. Third, now mucus has slow or you can say low resistance for slippage so that particles can slide along the epithelium with great ease. Fourth is that mucus causes the fecal particles to adhere to one another to form feces to be expelled during a bowel movement. Mucus is strongly resistant to digestion by the gut enzymes. The glycoproteins of mucus, they are capable of buffering small amounts of either acids or alkalis. Also, mucus often contains moderate quantities of bicarbonate ions which specifically neutralize acids. In summary, mucus has the ability to allow the easy slippage of food along the gut, and it has the ability to prevent the excoriative or chemical damage to the epithelium. A person becomes acutely aware of lubricating qualities of mucus when the salivary glands fail to secrete saliva, because then it is quite difficult to swallow solid food even when it is eaten along with large amounts of water. So this is all about today's lecture, and today we have learned about the importance of mucus, the importance of secretions, the basic general principles which are regulating the secretion of different juices in the gut, what is the role of autonomic nerve supply on the secretion of the gut, the importance of mucus, how protective it is, and why it has been given the name of gut wall. So we are going to continue it later on, inshallah. And till then, Allah Hafiz.